Hello, everyone. If you're watching on Facebook, join us on the Zoom link that's attached in the event and also in the subject of this video. You should be able to click on that and join us so you can be a part of the discussion. Lena, I see you're on. Can you hear me? Hi, Lena. Gonna go ahead and start recording here. I don't know if I can't hear you. Are you talking? You might gotta turn your microphone on. Or you're muted. You might be muted. Hold on a second. There you go. I got you unmuted.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're a little quiet. Hold on. Let me turn my volume up. There you are. Okay.
Jesse's here too.
I think we're live on Facebook. I think I got it to work this time. So again, anyone out there who's on Facebook and watching, please join us through the Zoom link. If you're watching on Facebook, that's fine, but all of our discussion will be on Zoom. So please click on that link if you want to join in and chat with us a little bit. I'm going to give a few more minutes for everybody to join in, hopefully, and then we'll get started. How are you, Jesse?
Good.
Good.
How are you, Alyssa?
You guys are staying busy with all your videos, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, it's good to stay busy though.
It is.
Especially at this time. I see a treadmill in the back.
Do you? I placed that there so everybody would know that we still work out even when we're at home. That's always there, actually. We just placed our desk so it could be seen, I guess.
It's funny.
Hi, Dawn.
There we go. Hi.
Can anybody check their Facebook and see if this is streaming on Facebook and let me know if it's working?
Okay, I'll check. Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. So everybody on Facebook and everybody in Zoom here, we are going to do our second lesson today on sports psychology. If you're going to participate, which we would love to have all of our athletes and coaches and family members out there join in with us and have some discussion. So if you would like to participate, please click on that Zoom link and join us in Zoom so we can chat. If you guys post anything on Facebook, I will not be monitoring that during this, so I will not know if you have a question. So please join us in Zoom if you want to participate. We would love to have you guys join us and discuss. If you do hop in Zoom, I am going to mute everybody right now, but if you want to chat or talk, just make sure you unmute yourself. And please do remember that this is going to be recorded, so we're going to post this later on. Everyone can watch it afterwards. We're going to do some questions and stuff today. Things that you guys can do on your own. So if you guys want to watch this later on, you can kind of pause it and do things on your own pace. So, hi, Kim. All right, let's get started. So last week we kind of went over like an overview of what sports psychology is. And I think those words kind of scare people off a little bit sometimes, but sports psychology is really, really not difficult at all. Does anybody have an idea? Oh, I'm going to share my screen. Don't let me forget to do that. I got a PowerPoint here for you guys. Okay, share. Can you guys see that? Nod your head yes if you can see my screen. Okay, cool. Okay, so does anybody have anything that they think of when they think of sports psychology? What do you think of? Throw out some words, throw out a mini definition. Unmute yourself.
Sorry, I was having major issues getting on. Zoom is not my friend. What was your question?
We're just talking about, we're going to go over an overview of what sports psychology is. I just said, I think sometimes those words are scary for people, but it's really, really not a tough thing. It's pretty simple. So I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts on what do they think of as a definition of sports psychology?
Okay.
Oh, I always think of it as, trying to do better mentally, keeping your head in the game.
There
That
you
kind
go.
of
Good. I think that was the words that you used last week too. So that's good.
Yeah.
So some of the phrases that I put up here as what sports psychology is, and these are the same things from last week. Again, we're just kind of going over that again. Is athletes train their mind as well as their bodies in order to stay calm and focused for competition. We can learn skills to reduce our stress, stay calm, boost confidence, and keep a positive attitude. I think for a lot of our athletes, that positive attitude is going to be something that we're going to focus on a lot. Maybe the focus thing, reducing stress, overcoming setbacks and mistakes. So having a good state of mind can kind of help us when we maybe make a physical mistake, like I miss a basket. How can our mind help us overcome that mistake and come back from that? And maybe the next time we make our basket. I just posted a video last night of my son shooting. He's 2, by the way, shooting a little basket, and he shot 3 times. And every single time he was super happy and he thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And then when he finally made his shot, he was even happier. But that's a really good example of what we need to be training our athletes to do, is focusing on the effort that they put into making those shots. Even though those first 3 shots he missed, how did he react to the miss? That if he had gotten mad and frustrated, he probably wouldn't have kept trying and he would have never made that shot, right? So it's all about our state of mind and how we frame those situations. Also enhancing social aspects of sport as part of it. This is something that the Healthy Athletes, Strong Minds discipline goes for. They talk about connecting with others and giving positive feedback to others, not just to yourself. Hi, Jasmine. Anybody that's joined in since we started, just remember that you're muted right now. And if you'd like to answer a question or join in, just unmute yourself and feel free to talk with us. We are streaming live on Facebook, so everybody else will hear what you say, and we are recording so that people can watch this after the fact. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so it's important to remember that when we think about training our mind, that it's not a bad thing. So it's not like I need to fix this problem in you. It's something that a lot of people do. A lot of our professional athletes train their minds. They work on sports psychology, and that is what sets them apart from other people. So I think a lot of times people think that, oh, that person thinks I have an issue and going on in my head, but it's not that. It's that this is one more thing that can enhance your performance. And it might be the difference between you and that person in the lane next to you. Because you might be the exact same physical capability of that person, but the way you frame your thoughts in your mind and how you react to a situation could put you one step above them. So some of the characteristics that are important for our mental game, these are the things that we're going to work on when we talk about sports psychology. So our level of motivation, how motivated are we? Where does our motivation come from is something that we want to improve upon. That's a characteristic that our professional athletes have that are really good with their mental game. People who are good with their mental game have a very high level of confidence. They are able to manage their anxiety well. So this kind of relates to stress, being able to relax in the moment when they need to. Positivity is one that I left that one out. Oh, nope, it's next. Here we go. Positivity, there it goes. So the way we talk to ourselves in our brain, so you may not even know it, but when you're playing a sport, there's words running through your head all the time. And those can make you react positively or negatively. So teaching ourselves to talk positively to ourselves during a game could help us perform better. And then having a good set of routines. A lot of times routines can help us relax and manage our stress. Okay, so with this, the most important thing and what we're going to focus on today, not most important necessarily, but the first aspect of what we do when we do sports psychology is awareness. So it is very important to be aware of the things that we need to work on and what's going on in our head. In order to bring about change, we must figure out first what needs to be changed and why. So without knowing the things that we need to work on, we can't fix them. So just in like a physical situation, if I didn't acknowledge the fact that I'm bad at shooting a basketball, I would never know that I needed to work on that, right? So just being aware of what you need to work on is important. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how we can become aware of our mental game and the things that go through our head when we're performing and playing sports. So awareness involves knowing your thoughts, your feelings, your behavior, your personality, acknowledging your strengths and weaknesses. If you're aware of your strengths and weaknesses, we can then work on improving them. And then in the game situation, being aware ahead of time of what you need to work on can help you prevent having mistakes happen. And also when a mistake does happen, it can help you overcome that. Okay, so people that are involved here, what makes up your best performance? So think of a time when you feel like you just nailed it, like you maybe achieved the fastest time in a race, you scored the most baskets you've ever scored, you set a record, whatever sport you play. Can anybody give me a scenario or a time when everything just like fell into place and was great? If you're talking, unmute yourself.
I mean, just from like an athlete perspective, I know that like there were certain times whenever I was at my community college that I played softball at, and like in order to get to that next level in like a division, you know, higher than that, just, you know, it was a junior college, so going on to like Division II. I know that like with that in mind and knowing that there were recruiters coming out to certain things, like I was always kind of like psyching myself up and almost just telling myself like, you can do this, like you've done this before, it's routine, like just make sure you're on it. So I think in like those situations I achieved more in my gameplay than I did whenever I wasn't like being recruited or it wasn't like a super important game, I guess.
Yeah, good. So when we talk about our best performance, sports psychologists use the words peak performance. And this is when an athlete exceeds their average performance and they kind of have the perfect combination of physical and mental skills. And some of the things that people might feel during those situations would be they feel in control. They feel like their performance was effortless. They were very, very confident in what was going on. They may or may not have felt relaxed depending on their sport. So like some sports you want to feel more relaxed than others. And then they probably had like a high level of positivity. So Jess, when you had those situations where you felt like you had a really good performance because of your, you know, in your college level, did you feel like those characteristics, and were there any other things that you felt during those times?
No, I think that's what it is, like having that positive mindset, and like when you do mess up, you don't just like it does kind of motivate you to do better, and you're not just sitting there stuck in like a state of negativity saying like, well, that sucked, or like you did that terribly. Like I think that you do end up having more of that positive motivation in your own mind.
Mm-hmm. Good. Does anybody else have a story or a situation they want to share about when they may have felt like they had their best performance ever? Nope. Make sure you unmute yourself if you want to talk.
I do.
Okay. Who's this?
James.
Oh, hey, James. Tell me about your best performance.
Best performance would be in track.
Okay.
Like you try to succeed in things that you are good at, but then when you win in a race or whatever the case may be, then you're like, oh man, you won this race. But then it's not about who's faster than the other. As long as you believe in yourself and you're doing what your coaches say, or your coaches or spectators or whatever are saying, then you will be okay. But if you don't listen to them, then you're not going to perform good at what you're going to do.
Right. So I heard you say like believing in yourself. So that means confidence, right? You had a high level of confidence when you performed well. And you, what else did you say? You did what your coaches said. So you had positive thoughts, right?
Yes,
Those are all
ma'am.
good examples. All right, so next slide. Okay, so when we're talking about awareness and how we can decide what each individual and every person needs to do to improve their mental game, do you guys think that everybody is going to be the same in what skills they need to work on? Probably not. So my examples here, on the left, we got Usain Bolt, and I used these same examples last week because I think they're a good example. So I'm going to bring them up again. And then on the right here, we have Michael Phelps. So do you think that their mental skills and the way that they like work to improve and enhance those is the same? Probably not. So Usain Bolt, he's obviously a runner. He is very, very energetic. He goes up to the line before and after he runs, and he does his little arm motions. He wants attention from the crowd. That helps pump him up. He functions really well on a high level of we call arousal or energy level. And he wants to be pumped up and he wants to be cheered for and that kind of thing. Michael Phelps is a little bit different. So he's a swimmer. He has a much more calm way of mentally performing. Before competition, he likes to be alone. He puts his headphones on. He may listen to music, and he finds ways to calm himself down and visualize his performance. So they're the way they attack and prepare for their performance is much different, but they're both still high level athletes, right? And they're very good at their mental game. So just because yours is what you need to do is different than someone else's doesn't make it wrong. So it's very important that we all sit back and reflect on the things that we need to work on so that we can develop our own skills and not worry about what everyone else is doing. So when we're talking about awareness, I have some questions that you might want to ask yourself. So a lot of, if you are working with like a professional sports psychologist, which is by no means me, they may do an assessment on you or at the beginning, and we call that the test of performance strategies. I'm not going to go into that because it's a whole bunch of questions. But some of the things you might think about to figure out what skills you need to work on would be, do you set goals for yourself? So right now we're trying to figure out what skills I need to work on. So just like if I'm a basketball player, beginning of the season, the coach comes to you and says, what skills you need to work on? You might say, oh, I need to become a better dribbler. I need to learn about how to shoot the basket better. Or I need to train myself to be faster. We are going to do the same thing with our mental skills. So things to think about regarding mental skills are, do you set goals for yourself? Yes or no? If you don't, that might be something you need to work on. You need to work on your motivation. Motivation is one of those characteristics we talked about earlier. So goals are how we improve and are aware of our motivation. What goes through your mind when you practice and compete? Are these words that you're saying to yourself positive or negative? If you are saying negative words to yourself, then you need to probably work on self-talk and positivity and reframing your thoughts. Do you know how to stay calm and calm yourself down in a stressful situation? Do you have techniques that you use to be calm and reduce stress, like doing yoga or breathing techniques? Do you know how to do those? If you don't know those things, those might be things that we need to work on and practice for you. Again, right now, all we're doing is trying to assess what our needs are. So for me, my biggest weakness is positivity. So when I play sports, I tend to get down on myself and I'm negative. So when I play sports, the biggest thing that I do for my mental skills is I work on my positivity and learning how to talk positively to myself, keep those negative thoughts away. And then the last question to ask yourself relates to like our concentration and focus. So do you get distracted easily? If you feel like you're out on the court playing basketball and sometimes you just kind of like forget that you're in the middle of a competition, then we can have some tactics to help you figure out how to stay focused. Another little tool for awareness is our traffic signal we have here. So we always want to be in the green light. So this is when things are going good. So you want to think about what is happening when things are going good. So I just asked and I got some responses from people about what is your best performance you've ever had and how did you feel? So let's pretend I'm a tennis player and there was one game where I just like aced every single serve. If I think back to that game and what was going good, I'm probably going to tell you things like I felt relaxed. My mind was really focused on what I needed to do. I had a lot of positive thoughts going through my head, those kinds of things. So what is going on when things are really good for you? The yellow is if you had a small mistake. So let's say I missed my first serve in tennis, but the rest of my serves were good before that. So then when I missed that serve, how did I respond? I'm still in the yellow here because things haven't totally fallen apart yet. But it's important when you get to that yellow that you have tactics and tools and skills to use to help you come back from that, right? Okay. So let's say I had all my aces in tennis and I did really, really good. And then I came across one missed serve, which that's going to happen. We're going to miss our serves every now and then. That's fine. But the key is here, when you're in this yellow zone, you just missed your first serve. How do you respond to that? Because if you don't respond well, you're going to end up here in the red. So we need to be aware of what our weaknesses are so we can stop them before they get us into this red section. Okay. Next slide here. So some tools that we can use to create our awareness. Just like we just talked about, kind of answering some of those questions I had on that slide before. Another good tool is just to sit down and list your strengths and weaknesses. So does anybody want to tell me what they think their strengths and weaknesses are? Let's just go with some strength or some weaknesses. Somebody tell me what they think a couple of their mental game weaknesses are. Maybe like low confidence, not staying focused, things like that. What are your weaknesses when it comes to that? I got a chat here. Christine thinks her age is a weakness. Okay. So we're just listing things. So anybody else have weaknesses and strengths? If you want to talk, you can just unmute yourself.
I did play tennis. And it was, especially when you're out there on your own, you know, by yourself, it's all on you. And it was being negative, the negative thought of what if, you know, instead of going, I got this the next time, I'd say, oh my gosh, what if I miss this next time?
Yeah.
You know?
Good. So negativity, you're kind of like me on that. That's my biggest weakness.
My when it comes to playing tennis, because I did play tennis in Special Olympics, and my age, it became a weakness because I had a harder time running around the court.
Okay. So that's good. So when you're thinking, you come into the game thinking that your age is a weakness, right? So do you have tools and ways that you overcome that thought in your head? So how do you reframe that your age may be difficult for you, make it harder for you to perform?
I just stopped playing singles and mainly do doubles now.
Okay, that's a way to do it. So you're saying now that I have a partner and I can play with them, this is more my pace of game, right? That's good. You've got to reframe the way you're thinking about it. Good. See, I think I had another chat up here. I don't know where it went.
Pitching.
That's your weakness?
I'm not gonna say it's my weakness. It's just when I can't get the pitches where it needs to be, then I start to get down on myself. But then I know that if my teammates get me fired up and things, I can pitch the correct way that I need to pitch, like my coaches and the rest of the organization would want me to do.
There you go. So that's good. So pitching is a physical skill, but your mental skills, you just said that people get you pumped up and fired up and you can come over that, right? So that's good. I'm getting some chats here. So Kim and Jasmine both said that sometimes they forget tips that their coaches have given them. So that's really good. So you think that we can come up with some tips and tools for you to use to kind of work on your focus and concentration and remembering your things that your coaches have told you. Okay, those are good examples. All right, so another way we can create awareness, so taking those strengths and weaknesses, we have to consciously think about those, right, all the time, so we know that that's something we need to work on. So journal keeping can help us do that, and I know not everybody likes to read and write, so journal keeping can be done by drawing or maybe video blogs. Does anybody else have an idea of things that they can do to keep a journal and maybe keep track of the weaknesses and how their games go and that kind of thing? Is there anything else that anybody does to keep a sort of like a journal that might not be reading or writing? I couldn't think of anything else. But like my point is, you don't have to be able to write. Is it someone else want to jump in and say something?
If they have a smartphone, they can memo record with their voice.
Yeah, good. So just talking in a recording or video blog, even like if somebody else reads you questions, you can answer like with a yes or a no checkbox, or you can have them do like a 1 to 5 rating. You can like rate certain statements. You may need help from a coach to like write down some things like this game, I felt really good about my performance, and you can rate it yes or no. Setting goals. I had goals on my list to talk about, but we're not going to really go super deep into that because I think Trish is covering goal setting like weekly. So if you want to talk more about goals and how that can help, get on there with Trish on Thursdays and listen to her lesson on that. But if we do set goals, these are great ways to make ourselves aware of the things we need to work on and keep them in our mind so we can keep thinking about what we need to do to get better. But make sure you're sharing your goals with your coaches or your teammates or your parents or whoever is going to be helpful to you and keep you accountable. And then another way to create awareness is asking for feedback from your coaches and your teammates. And then the important thing from that is that when they do give feedback, you have to take it in a good way. So they're not trying to tell you that you can't let them give you feedback and then you get down because of it. You have to take their feedback and know that they're trying to help you improve and enhance your performance. And you have to use that to make yourself better. And so sometimes for coaches, it's important to keep in mind too that sometimes our athletes have a hard time becoming aware. And this goes for any athlete. They have a hard time becoming aware of what is going on in their mind and what kinds of things they need to work on. So sometimes coaches need to go to those athletes and help them become aware of what things they need to work on. Dawn, you're a coach. Do you have any examples of like when this may have happened and what you did?
I had a couple of basketball players that 3-on-3, so not a lot of pressure, and they're young, but they literally would look at me like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do that. Like all they kept saying, I can't do this. So we had a chat and I said, you can do it. And it actually right now, it doesn't even matter if you do it. If you really can't, you can step out. So I gave them that opening, but I said, just get in and I'll tell you, like I had to tell them, now you're doing it. Now you've got it right. Now this is, when they did do it, I showed them how they look, you just did it.
Yeah.
And then they had that in their head. Oh, I did do it. I did do it.
Yeah.
And then they started learning.
And then I kind of think, so you gave them those tools they needed right then, but then also making them aware of the fact that the negative thoughts that go through their mind aren't helping them, and that we can work on that skill. We can work on your positivity, and then next time maybe they can fix it themselves instead of having you have to tell them in the situation, right? Okay. So we're going to dive a little bit more into things we can do for journal keeping. And again, journal keeping isn't necessarily like writing down your thoughts and everything, but it could also be just having a discussion. So if you don't like to write or you don't have another way to do journal keeping, you can record a video memo or a recording in your phone, or you can do a video blog kind of thing, or you can just sit down and talk with somebody about these things. So summarizing your participation in sport. Why do you participate? What are your athletic goals? All of these are going to kind of help you with your motivation. What is your greatest strength and weakness? What is your biggest, we just said weaknesses. And then what is important to you from relationships with coaches and teammates? Again, these are all things that we aren't going to go through individually right now. But if you guys want to go back and watch this recording and write some of these down and actually do this, that would be a great, I'd love to see some of you guys take this in and start doing this journal keeping and trying to think about what mental skills you need. And if you would like some help and some support, I'm happy to like kind of do this with you guys one-on-one. Just email me afterwards. I'll put my email in the Facebook video. But yeah, if you guys want help with any of this, I'm happy to do some one-on-one things with you guys and kind of help you guys become aware. It would just be kind of hard for us all to do this as a group right here because everybody kind of has individual needs, right? So another thing we want to keep in mind when journal keeping is that we're doing this on a regular basis, and that after we do that initial session, like I just gave you some suggestions here for things to write about just to get started, maybe at the beginning of your season, we want to make sure we go back and we reread those every so often, and then make sure we're doing this on a regular basis. So we want to keep journaling maybe once a week or after every practice or something like that. And some different topics that you guys can journal on if you're needing things to think about, like what should I write about when I'm journaling. Here's some topics that you guys can use. So your stressors. So describing things that are stressful to you in and out of sport. How do you cope with these stressors? Our self-talk. So self-talk is, again, those words that are going through our heads when we're performing. So I step up to the line in tennis and I can even think to myself like, oh my gosh, I just missed my last serve. I'm really nervous. I don't know what to do. I might miss this serve. Or I can think to myself like, I've been practicing for this for so long. All my friends are out here watching. They're cheering for me. I'm going to have a great serve right now. So there's two different ways you can talk to yourself. You can have positivity or negativity. And obviously we want to aim for positivity, but so when you're journaling, you can write down maybe specific thoughts that go through your head a lot. Does anybody have an example of things that they think about, whether it's positive or negative, when they're playing a sport? What kind of self-talk do you guys have?
I motivate myself.
You motivate yourself? That's good. What kinds
Yeah.
of things do you say to yourself in your head? Whether it's not going to be out loud necessarily, but what thoughts do you have that help motivate you?
It's like, come on, Christine, you've got this. Or, hey, even if it rolled, because I also golf, even if it rolled along the ground, it's still going forward.
Good. Sounds like you
so-
are good at positivity.
Sometimes.
Yeah, okay, good. So you want to keep track of those things that are going through your mind, and you want to make sure that you keep saying positive things. And if you have any negative thoughts, we're keeping track of what they are so we can make sure we fix them, right? Okay. So relaxation is another topic that you can kind of journal about. Do you feel like you need to be more relaxed, and what are you doing to help that? So I talked about with like Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps. They kind of both have different energy levels. So Michael is more relaxed, and then Usain Bolt obviously needs to be a little bit more energetic. I think it depends on the sport you're playing. With golf, it's kind of a more technical sport. You want to be slowed down a little bit. You want to maybe be a little bit more relaxed. And so it's going to depend on the person and the sport you're playing and the situation you're in. So everybody can journal about that and talk about what makes them feel relaxed, what situations make them feel less relaxed, if they know how to do things that can help them. And then the last topic that I put on here was our focus or our concentration. So do you have any distracting thoughts? I know a couple people mentioned that they have a hard time remembering their tips that their coaches give them. So this is kind of related to focus and concentration. So we can talk about ways that you can maybe rehearse those tips beforehand. Or your coaches, if you tell them that you forget things, maybe let them know, hey, coach, I always forget this one skill you taught me. Can you just give me some cues during the game to remember that? That doesn't hurt at all. So related to focus again, are you having distracting thoughts? When do they occur? Are you able to get your focus back on track? If not, that might be something that we need to make sure we hit on. So again, all these journaling sessions are just helping us figure out the things that we need to work on and keep in mind all of these things that are going through our head. And then another good way to keep journals or become aware of what we're doing is our post-performance journaling. So I have a little worksheet that if you want, I can give you, but I just pulled some questions off of that right now. So after every practice or every game, you might go and fill out this worksheet. When I work with athletes, I would give them this worksheet and have them fill it out so they can kind of rate their performance. It's similar to like if you were to call in to a call center. Like yesterday, I had some problems getting my package picked up from UPS, and they sent me an evaluation afterwards. It's the same idea, but now you're just evaluating your performance in your sport. Okay, so let's say I had a basketball game. Let's pretend like we got to go to indoor games and play basketball. So after that first game, you want to do this post-performance evaluation. What were your stressors for today's competition? Maybe you didn't have any stressors. Maybe it was a great day for you and you didn't feel stressed at all. Write that down. If you did have stressors, what was it? Maybe you were late to the game and so you were like running behind and that stressed you out a lot. All those things could be stressors for the competition. What words do you remember saying to yourself? So maybe you remember saying like, I feel so prepared for today's game, or maybe you said, I was running late today. I don't feel prepared. I don't even know if my shoes are on the right feet. Like whatever you said to yourself, write those down. How did you manage negative words? If you had negative words, write down what you did to them. So maybe the negative words got to you. You need to write that down. Say, I couldn't get over the words I was saying to myself. Or maybe you found a way to stay positive. You asked a teammate to, hey, can you help give me some positive thoughts because I'm right now, I'm really negative to myself. Describe one moment that you enjoyed in your performance. And then on my worksheet, I have these next few things with like a rating system, 1 to 5. So you would write yourself how you felt on the way to the game from a 1 to a 5, 1 being the worst, 5 to being the best. How you felt during your warm-up, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, how you felt during the game, and how you felt after the game. So it's important to kind of look at this. So what if you said that you felt like a 1 on the way to the game? You were just like really down in the dumps. You had a bad morning. You're running late. All of these things. So you were a 1. Do you think that that's going to translate into your performance during the game and after the game?
Oh yeah.
Probably. If you had a bad morning, it's probably going to make you warm up poorly, and then you're going to have a bad game because you didn't warm up well, and then after the game you're going to feel lousy too, right? So we want to rate ourselves in all of those points of the day and see how they may have affected each other. And then the last question was, what did you learn from today's game that will help you next time? So again, this is something that you could do. You don't have to, but you could do after every game or every practice. If sports psychology and like your mental skills is something that you want to work on, these are really good tools to do that. Okay, so kind of overall, how do we choose which skills we use? So all these things we just talked about, our strengths and our weaknesses, how we perform during the game and what things we need to work on. These are all the ways we can pick what skills we will be using individually. It also goes into what sport you're playing. I know, trying to give a good example here. James, you do basketball and you do track. Do you think that you have different psychological needs for each sport? Is there different things you work on for those sports, or are they the same for both?
I think track is my better sport that I could do. I can actually honestly say that.
Okay, so you might have more psychological needs because you think you perform poor, not that you perform poorly, but that you perform worse in basketball than you do track. So track you might have different things, like you might need to work more on positivity for basketball because you automatically think that you're not as good at that sport, right? So
Correct.
Our skills might be different from sport to sport. I'm definitely going to have different skills than other people. Like there's things that I need to work on that Lena doesn't need to work on. She's good at all these things, but I'm not. Okay, so we're going to be different from people to people and from different sports that we play. Another way to help, we talked about our strengths and weaknesses. Those are probably the most important things to look at when we're determining our psychological needs. And then overall, like, who are you? So if you guys have ever thought about writing like a personal mission statement, we do this in ALPS. It's kind of helpful to just kind of write down what your purpose is, what you like to do. That way we can have like a starting point for where to go. All right, some tips for using our psychological skills. Again, this was the same slide we had from last week, but I kind of wanted to end with it. So you should train your mental skills just like you train your physical skills. So think about these skills like the journal keeping and making positive thoughts. We'll talk about positive thoughts later on with more tools for that. Today we were just focusing on awareness. We talked a lot about journal keeping, but it's really important to do these skills all the time. So right now when you guys are all on quarantine and you're in your houses, you can't necessarily do your physical practice like shooting baskets and that kind of thing. You can be working on your mental skills. So when you come back from isolation that we're all in right now, you have like the tip top notch mental game out of everybody, right? You're so aware of the thoughts that go through your mind. You become more confident because of this. And then you're ready to just get back in the game and start going. But it's important that you practice these skills just like you train your physical skills. Another important thing is that you should be the one choosing your mental program. Nobody should be telling you which things you need to work on. I'm not going to go tell James James, I think you're really negative. You need to work on positivity. No, I'm going to let him choose that, what things he needs to work on, because if he doesn't believe in it, he's not going to make it happen, right? And then they should be practiced exactly how it will be used in competition. So I told you, like, I showed that picture of Michael Phelps. He is a big, he likes to listen to music before his competition. So he listens to music, and I think he does a lot of visualization, which we'll talk about in our next sessions. But I guarantee you, he probably does that before practices as well as before games. Because if I don't practice doing my visualization and I don't practice with the music like that calms me down, then it's not going to translate into my competition, right? So the key word here is routine, doing it over and over and over again. So you can even like add this into your practice session. Ask your coach if they'll let you do these mental skills at practice, or maybe you come in 10 minutes early and you do them on your own before practice. But you want to turn whatever skills you have into a habit, and they should be part of your daily routine. So coaches, a good question is, how do you make your athletes aware of their weaknesses without making them feel like it's a bad thing? Any ideas, coaches? I think Dawn's the only coach out there. She's still there.
It's, that whole good sandwich, the good bad sandwich or whatever, you give them a good thing. You're doing great with this. Let's work on that. And another good thing. But mainly, usually it's just a matter of, I hear what they're saying. And so I say, I hear you saying, I can't do this, or I don't get it, or I don't think I can manage a shot like that, whatever it is. I just use whatever the words they are using, that I'm just helping them say, I hear you saying this, let's fix it. And not,
and like making them aware that they're saying it, because they might not even know that like that thought or that thing they just said made them perform worse. So also, if you kind of do this as a whole team, it doesn't like point one person out, and it doesn't bring on the weaknesses of one person necessarily. So if you start at the beginning of the season and you ask them to tell you their strengths and weaknesses, then it's them telling you instead of you pointing it out to them. Does that make sense? And then approaching it as an enhancing performance challenges. So you're not telling them that they're bad at that. You're just saying, if you work on this and you can change that negative attitude, it's going to make your performance better. This will help them be more focused, confident, and in control of their emotions and perform more consistently. So make it a good thing. Like you said, Dawn, you do a good job of that. So, all right. So the next slide, we just covered awareness. So I said we aren't probably going to go on to goal setting next week. I'm going to let Trish do that in her sections. But we will definitely delve into self-talk next week. And then I'll probably do stress relief and imagery in one session. So those are our next topics. I got awareness crossed out. We're not going to do goal setting, but those next topics are going to be what we're going to do next week and the week after. Does anybody have thoughts and discussion that they want to add in? I did get some chats here about how they can get this recording. It is on Facebook Live right now, so you should be able to watch it on Facebook after I stop the recording. And then it will also be posted on our SOMO at Home page on our Special Olympics website. And then my email address is cress, CRESS @somo.org. Feel free to email me with any questions, or if you guys want to do some of this together, I'm happy to do that as well. So does anybody have any more discussion they want to jump in or say things or share a story?
Actually, Alyssa, there is one good thing about softball though. Like you were saying, that you can do things like Jess one day. It was like last year or the year before, we was in Savannah, and she like, James, or I think it was at the celebrity game, I can't remember, but she like, if you step a little bit away from third base, I think it was, you can throw your pitches right. And I took that advice. I mean, listening to what my coaches know what's best for us, that's what I did. So when Jess said, James, you can step over a little bit towards third base or whatever, that's what I did. And I was throwing my pitches really good.
Good. That kind of boosted your confidence and your positivity, right?
Correct. Yes.
Good. So having a knowledge of our sport is also a really good tool to help our mental game, because if you practice your physical skills, you're going to be more confident in what you're doing, and you're going to have more positivity, and that's going to help our overall mental skills and our positivity and everything like that. So obviously physical and mental skills work very hand in hand, right?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
I think the one thing that really will help an athlete, and it has helped with my golf game, because I just becoming 9-hole individual starting this fall season.
Mhm.
And I've listened to my partner, who is also my coach, because I was doing 9-hole alternate shot. And she says, why don't you try this? And I tried it and it worked. It may not work every time, but it worked. And that helped me gain confidence. So you got to trust your coach and know that what they're saying is true. And eventually, if it doesn't work right away, it's going to work.
Yeah, that's good examples. Lena, do you have any examples? You mentioned your time at USA Games last summer. Do you have any examples of things of good mental awareness or mental skills during that time? I'm sure you had some really memorable performances then, right?
Yeah, let's see here. I self-talk to myself like, you can do this, you've been training for this for a whole year. And remember what my coaches said to
Good.
me.
So you remember talking positively to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, everybody should make sure that they're aware of that. And if you, what's that?
And stay calm.
Stay calm. Good. That's good self-talk. Yep.
How about you, Jesse?
You got anything, Jesse?
Well, when you talk about like breathing and staying calm,
Yeah.
I've watched these professional bowlers, and what they do is that I see them, they're always breathing and they're not being stressed out. And I think
Yeah.
that's very healthy for everybody to not, be all, like I do, like 3-on-3 basketball, and I'm very determined
Good.
when it comes to goal setting and shooting.
Good. You got some good motivation. Those are good topics. So we'll talk about the breathing and the stress relief and stuff in one of our next sessions, not today, but those are definitely important topics for sure. All righty, well, that's all I have. If anybody wants to reach out to me individually, I'm happy to help. And please use this recording later on if you want to go back and answer some of those journal questions and things like that. It should be available to you on Facebook and on our SOMO at Home website on somo.org.
I did. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to end it. So if you got something else to say, go ahead.
I did send you a private message. Would you mind sharing this with SONC?
I will ask Brandon if he can do that.
Okay.
He's in charge of all the recordings.
All right,
Are you
Brandon.
from North Carolina?
I am, yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Oh,
And thank you everybody else for joining, because it was much, not that the people who joined last week weren't great. It was just nice having a lot of people around to share their stories. So thanks for everybody for joining, and please come back next week. We are doing it again at 1 p.m.
I'll talk to Brandon. Bye-bye.
Bye.